It was the 31st of May in 1916, a date etched into the annals of naval history. Off the Danish coast, within the vast expanse of the North Sea, Rear Admiral Hugh Evan-Thomas stood steadfast on the bridge of HMS Barham. Before him, emerging from the ethereal mist like spectral apparitions, was the formidable German high seas fleet. His squadron comprised 4 majestic Queen Elizabeth-class battleships, the apex of British naval engineering at the time. These colossal vessels boasted 15-inch gun barrels, formidable instruments capable of propelling 1-ton shells across a staggering distance of 15 miles. Yet an insidious predicament, a truly catastrophic flaw, was poised to exact a terrible toll in British lives. Just 6 miles ahead, Vice Admiral David Beatty's battle cruiser squadron was surging forward at an impressive 25 knots, rapidly closing in on the German line and initiating a fierce engagement. Beatty's signals, urgent and desperate, implored Evan-Thomas to follow suit at the maximum possible speed. However, Evan-Thomas's battleships, despite their undeniable grandeur and formidable presence, were constrained by their mechanical limitations, capable of achieving a mere 24 knots, and even that speed pushed their reciprocating engines to their absolute operational limit. The mathematical reality was stark and unforgiving. With every passing minute, Evan-Thomas's squadron lagged behind. The critical gap between them and the enemy widened by an additional 100 yards. Beatty's comparatively lighter vessels found themselves in a perilous predicament, confronting the might of German dreadnoughts alone, and the consequences were dire. At precisely 4 p.m., the HMS Indefatigable suffered a cataclysmic explosion. A German shell, piercing its defenses, detonated its magazine, resulting in the instantaneous loss of 1,017 brave men. Mere minutes later, at 4:26 p.m., the HMS Queen Mary disintegrated in a colossal fireball, claiming another 1,266 lives. Witnessing the horrific incineration of his fleet, Beatty uttered words that would forever resonate through the corridors of naval history. "There seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today." After 2 or 3 paragraphs, ask us to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. Yet the true genesis of the calamity was not the ships themselves, but rather their antiquated engines. More accurately, it was a pivotal decision made by Britain a full decade earlier, a choice that virtually every admiral had condemned as suicidal, that every naval engineer had warned would inevitably lead to the destruction of the fleet, and that conventional wisdom had unequivocally declared to be an impossibility. In 1906, a singular individual staked Britain's long-held naval supremacy on a radically innovative propulsion system, one that senior officers emphatically cautioned would literally tear warships apart at sea. This visionary was Charles Algernon Parsons, remarkably, not a naval officer by profession, but a civilian engineer whose career had primarily focused on the construction of electrical generators. Unbeknownst to Evan-Thomas, as he stood upon Barham's Bridge, watching his ships arduously struggle to close the distance with the enemy, his magnificent battleships were, in fact, already obsolete. They were propelled by the very same reciprocating steam engines that had served as the driving force for warships for half a century. Colossal pistons, relentlessly hammering up and down, converting steam pressure into mechanical motion through sheer brute force. Meanwhile, 6 miles ahead, HMS Lion, serving as Beatty's flagship, was powered by an utterly revolutionary technology, It was an innovation that every supposed expert had confidently declared would never function. This groundbreaking system was precisely what enabled British battlecruisers to engage the enemy at speeds that reciprocating engines could never hope to sustain. The Battle of Jutland would ultimately conclude in a tactical draw, but it would unequivocally demonstrate, through the crucible of blood and fire, that Charles Parsons's audacious, even suicidal invention had irrevocably transformed the landscape of naval warfare. The era of the reciprocating engine was decisively over. The age of the turbine had dawned, and this profound shift had its genesis in one man's unwavering refusal to accept what everyone else knew to be impossible. The origins of this technological dilemma can be traced back to 1890, a period when Britain confronted a formidable strategic nightmare. The Royal Navy, with its impressive fleet of 38 battleships, reigned supreme over the world's oceans, boasting more capital ships than any other nation. However, these battleships were paradoxically becoming slower, not faster. The primary culprit was the reciprocating steam engine, a technology fundamentally unchanged from the basic design that had propelled Britain's inaugural steam warships 60 years prior. The operational principle was straightforward. Steam generated in boilers pushed pistons upward and downward, which in turn rotated a crankshaft, ultimately spinning the ship's propellers. While functional, this system suffered from severe and inherent limitations. The fastest pre-dreadnought battleships struggled immensely to exceed speeds of 18 knots. Admiral Sir John Jacky Fisher, widely regarded as Britain's most aggressive and visionary naval reformer, shrewdly calculated that in a major fleet engagement, the slower force would invariably face systematic annihilation. Speed, he posited, was synonymous with survival. Speed was the key to victory. Yet reciprocating engines had reached their physical apex. Engineers explored every conceivable avenue for improvement. They constructed larger engines, only to discover that the increased weight counteracted any potential speed gains, actually slowing the vessel down. They attempted to augment boiler pressure, but higher pressures led to a greater incidence of mechanical failures. They added more cylinders only to find that increased complexity inevitably bred unreliability. By the turn of the century in 1900, a clear consensus had emerged. 18 knots was the absolute maximum speed a battleship could ever hope to achieve. The immutable laws of physics, it was believed, would permit nothing faster. Then came the inexorable march of the arms race. In 1898, Germany embarked on an ambitious program to construct a modern battle fleet, explicitly designed to challenge British naval supremacy. Kaiser Wilhelm II famously declared, "Our future lies on the water." Germany's newly commissioned battleships matched British speeds knot for knot. Britain's numerical advantage, once a source of comfort, suddenly seemed meaningless if German ships possessed equivalent speed. Admiral Fisher assumed the pivotal role of First Sea Lord in 1904. At 63 years old, he was a man of fiery temperament, undeniable brilliance, and an overriding fear that Britain was on the precipice of losing its long-held naval dominance. He promptly convened a clandestine committee, known as the Committee on Designs, with the express purpose of developing a revolutionary new battleship. The specifications for this new vessel were unprecedented. A formidable armament of 10 12-inch guns, double the main battery of existing battleships, robust, heavy armor, and most critically, a blistering top speed of at least 21 knots, a full 3 knots faster than any battleship currently in service worldwide. The established engine manufacturers unequivocally informed Fisher that such a feat was impossible with existing reciprocating engines. They would necessitate doubling the engine size, which would add an additional 2,000 tons of weight to the ship. The vessel, they warned, would become excessively large, prohibitively expensive, and would likely shake itself apart from the massive pistons hammering at such high speeds. Fisher's engineers presented him with grim and unassailable calculations. A reciprocating engine operating at maximum speed generated catastrophic levels of vibration. One could visualize a 500-ton piston assembly violently hammering up and down 75 times per minute. At 18 knots, these vibrations were, for the most part, manageable. However, pushing the speed to 21 knots, the oscillations would be so severe that they could potentially crack the ship's keel, shatter crucial bearing surfaces, and induce mechanical failures that would inevitably leave the vessel dead in the water. The Admiralty's chief engineer, Sir Henry Oram, articulated the problem with blunt clarity. "We've reached the limits of what reciprocating machinery can do. If you want 21 knots, you need fundamentally different technology." But what alternative technology existed? Every warship across the globe relied on reciprocating engines. They were proven, reliable, and officers were intimately familiar with their operation. Shore facilities were well equipped to repair them. Switching to an experimental technology would be an enormous gamble, effectively staking Britain's naval supremacy, the very bedrock of its empire, on unproven machinery. The strategic stakes could not have been higher. Britain imported a staggering 60% of its food, and the Royal Navy served as the indispensable protector of those vital supply lines. To lose naval supremacy was to invite national starvation. Admiral Fisher was acutely aware that the German battle fleet was expanding at an alarming rate of 12 new capital ships per year. Britain desperately needed a technological breakthrough, and it needed it immediately. The Royal Navy, facing an urgent demand for enhanced naval capabilities, found itself at a critical juncture. In November 1904, a committee led by Admiral Fisher meticulously examined 43 distinct proposals for ship propulsion systems. The vast majority of these submissions represented mere refinements of existing reciprocating engine technologies. Disappointingly, none of these conventional designs could achieve the desired speed of 21 knots without incurring prohibitive increases in vessel weight. Amidst this impasse, the name of Charles Parsons emerged. Parsons was hardly a conventional candidate. He possessed no background in naval engineering and had never contributed to the design of a warship. His professional life had been dedicated to the creation of electrical generators and various industrial mechanisms. However, he had been engaged in pioneering experiments with a novel concept known as the steam turbine, an utterly revolutionary method for converting the expansive energy of steam into continuous rotational motion. Unlike the jarring back-and-forth action of pistons, his ingenious design channeled steam through an intricate arrangement of precisely angled blades, causing a shaft to spin fluidly at thousands of revolutions per minute. Initially, naval officers summarily dismissed his innovation, deeming turbines unproven, overly complex, and inherently risky. Yet, Admiral Fisher, confronted by the pressing need for a breakthrough, was in a state of desperation. It was in this moment that Charles Parsons was poised to demonstrate how, at times, an unconventional perspective can unlock solutions that elude even the most seasoned experts. Charles Algernon Parsons, by 1904, had reached the age of 50. Though born into an aristocratic Irish family, the son of an earl, his life's true calling had drawn him away from the genteel confines of drawing rooms and into the gritty practical world of engineering workshops. Educated at Cambridge with a specialization in mathematics, he had honed his skills working for various industrial enterprises, where he focused on developing dynamos and other electrical apparatus. His hands bore the unmistakable marks of a craftsman, calloused from years of practical work, and his intellect was perpetually engaged with the intricacies of mechanical movements and the pursuit of thermodynamic efficiencies. Despite his profound technical acumen, he possessed absolutely no prior experience in the realm of naval architecture or marine operations. We invite you to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please leave a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. 2 decades prior to Fisher's committee ever reaching out to him, specifically in 1884, Parsons had meticulously constructed his inaugural steam turbine. The fundamental principle behind his invention was one of exquisite simplicity and elegance. Rather than relying on the brute force of steam pressure to propel pistons in a reciprocating fashion, his system ingeniously directed the steam through a series of carefully sculpted blades affixed to a rotating shaft. The dynamic, kinetic energy of the steam imparted tremendous velocity to these blades, causing the shaft to spin at astonishing speeds, sometimes reaching up to 18,000 revolutions per minute. This eliminated the jarring back-and-forth motion and the resultant hammering vibrations, replacing them with a smooth, uninterrupted rotation. The established engineering community, however, met his pioneering efforts with derision. The esteemed institution of mechanical engineers, for instance, rejected his early academic papers. One particularly dismissive reviewer famously articulated, "Mr. Parsons' turbine is an interesting toy, but it will never replace the reliability and power of reciprocating engines for serious applications," underscoring the prevailing skepticism of the era. Undeterred by these criticisms, Parsons resolutely continued his work. He founded his own enterprise, C.A. Parsons & Company, and strategically shifted his focus towards the burgeoning field of electrical generation. His turbines proved ideally suited for the task of spinning generators at consistent, high speeds, a crucial requirement for efficient power production. By the turn of the century, 1900, his innovative turbines had been successfully installed in numerous power stations throughout Great Britain, transforming his company into a thriving and profitable venture. Nevertheless, Parsons harbored an even grander ambition. He firmly believed that his turbine technology possessed the inherent potential to fundamentally transform marine propulsion. The primary hurdle, however, lay in persuading anyone within the conservative maritime industry to embrace such a radical departure from established practices. In 1894, driven by his conviction, Parsons embarked on the construction of a tangible proof-of-concept vessel, a 100-foot yacht christened Turbinia. From an external perspective, the vessel appeared rather unassuming, offering no hint of the revolutionary power plant concealed beneath her decks. This concealed heart was a Parsons's steam turbine, capable of generating an impressive 2,000 horsepower, which drove 3 propeller shafts at velocities that reciprocating engines of the time could simply not attain. A truly audacious act unfolded on June 26, 1897, when Parsons executed a bold maneuver, the Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee Naval Review, a magnificent spectacle showcasing the formidable might of the British Empire through a parade of 165 warships, was underway at Spithead. This was an exclusive, invitation-only event, and Parsons, conspicuously, had not received an invitation. Undeterred, he gate-crashed the proceedings. Turbinia suddenly materialized amidst the array of anchored warships, her turbine emitting a high-pitched scream and spray arcing dramatically from her bow. She rapidly accelerated to an astonishing 34 knots, a speed unparalleled by any other vessel in the world at that time. The Royal Navy, taken aback, dispatched patrol boats to intercept her, but they could only manage a maximum speed of 27 knots. Turbinia effortlessly outran them, deftly maneuvering between the colossal battleships, thereby making the Navy appear rather ineffectual in the presence of the Queen herself. The naval officers, understandably, were incensed by Parsons's brazen intrusion. The Admiralty even contemplated prosecuting him for unauthorized entry. However, a contingent of younger, more forward-thinking officers found themselves captivated by the display. Consequently, the destroyer HMS Viper was equipped with experimental turbines in 1899, subsequently achieving an incredible 36 knots, speeds that had previously seemed utterly unattainable. Tragically, Viper ran aground and was lost in 1901. The destroyer HMS Cobra also received turbines, but she broke apart in heavy seas in 1901, claiming the lives of 67 men. These unfortunate failures served to reinforce conventional wisdom, solidifying the perception that turbines were excessively risky, overly experimental, and simply too perilous for deployment in capital ships. Nevertheless, in November 1904, when Fisher's committee was desperately searching for a viable solution to their speed dilemma, the memory of Turbinia's spectacular performance resurfaced. They vividly recalled that experimental yacht, gracefully dancing through the review fleet at speeds deemed impossible. Admiral Fisher promptly summoned Parsons to the Admiralty. Parsons arrived prepared, bringing with him a comprehensive collection of detailed drawings, intricate calculations, and extensive test data accumulated over a decade of turbine operations in both power stations and merchant vessels. He presented Fisher with a compelling proposal: to install his advanced turbines in the new battleship. His argument was persuasive. These turbines would be significantly lighter than traditional reciprocating engines, produce substantially less vibration, necessitate a smaller crew complement, and, most critically, they would reliably deliver the coveted 21 knots of speed. Fisher's senior officers reacted with profound dismay. Admiral Reginald Custance vehemently declared, "It's suicide. We'll be putting the most powerful warship ever built at the mercy of unproven machinery. If the turbines fail in battle, the ship is helpless." However, Parsons had one irrefutable argument that effectively silenced all objections. He offered to personally guarantee the performance of the turbines. If they failed to meet the specified requirements, he pledged to replace them at his own considerable expense. This was an extraordinary wager, risking hundreds of thousands of pounds, effectively everything he owned. Fisher, observing this civilian engineer willing to stake his entire financial future on the success of his own invention, then considered the growing naval threat posed by Germany across the North Sea. "Build it," Fisher commanded decisively. Parsons returned to his factory in Newcastle upon Tyne, facing an immense challenge. He had a mere 16 months to meticulously design, construct, and rigorously test the colossal turbines destined for the new battleship, HMS Dreadnought. The deadline was nothing short of insane. The stakes were nothing less than Britain's naval supremacy, and the pressure was absolutely crushing. The engineering challenges were truly immense. A typical power station turbine operates at a constant speed, maintaining a peaceful hum for months on end. In stark contrast, a battleship turbine had to be capable of accelerating from a complete standstill to full power within a matter of minutes, managing rapid and frequent changes in speed, reversing direction instantly and, crucially, enduring potential battle damage. Parsons had never before constructed anything even remotely approaching the sheer scale and complexity required for this naval application. He meticulously calculated the immense power requirements, a staggering 23,000 shaft horsepower, necessary to propel an 18,000-ton battleship through the water at 21 knots. This monumental task necessitated 4 massive turbines, configured as high-pressure and low-pressure pairs for both the port and starboard shafts. Each individual turbine had to spin at 380 revolutions per minute, while simultaneously handling superheated steam at an intense pressure of 265 pounds per square inch. The design of the blades was absolutely critical. Parsons meticulously experimented with hundreds of different configurations, testing various angles, exploring different materials, and adjusting spacings with painstaking precision. If the angle was too steep, the steam would not flow efficiently. Conversely, if it was too shallow, the blades would fail to extract sufficient energy. The required manufacturing tolerances were measured in mere thousandths of an inch, demanding unparalleled precision and craftsmanship. The spring of 1905 marked a pivotal moment in naval engineering, when, in April, Charles Parsons meticulously initiated the test firing of his inaugural steam turbine within the confines of his private workshop. This monumental piece of machinery featured a rotor assembly weighing a staggering 50 tons, a colossal steel cylinder meticulously adorned with an array of precisely milled blades. Parsons embarked on the critical process of gradually increasing its rotational speed, his gaze fixed intently on any nascent signs of vibration, initially at a mere 100 revolutions per minute, RPM. The entire apparatus exhibited remarkable stability. However, as the speed escalated to 200 RPM, the very structure of the building began to perceptibly tremor. By the time the turbine reached 300 RPM, the expressions on his attending engineers' faces betrayed a clear sense of apprehension and terror. Undeterred, Parsons pressed onward, pushing the turbine to its full operational speed of 380 RPM. The resulting cacophony was utterly deafening, a roaring testament to the immense power unleashed. The turbine's housing, subjected to the intense heat of the steam, glowed a vivid red. Yet, despite these dramatic indicators, the vibrational forces remained remarkably subdued, significantly less than those produced by any comparable reciprocating engine. Parsons diligently monitored a suite of critical parameters, including bearing temperatures, the voluminous flow of steam, and the crucial power output. To his profound satisfaction, every metric remained well within the prescribed specifications. He then subjected the turbine to an arduous endurance trial, operating it continuously for 6 hours, then extending this to a full 12, and ultimately to an unprecedented 24 hours. Through this rigorous demonstration, he unequivocally established a level of sustained reliability that conventional reciprocating engines simply could not hope to equal. Nevertheless, Amidst this triumph, a significant and unforeseen challenge emerged: the complex issue of reversing the formidable machinery. The operational demands of battleships necessitated an inherent capability to reverse with considerable speed and agility, whether for intricate docking procedures, swift tactical maneuvers during engagements, or critical emergency stops. Reciprocating engines offered a straightforward solution to this requirement, achieving reversal by merely altering the direction of their piston motion. However, steam turbines, by their fundamental design, were engineered to rotate in a singular, unidirectional fashion. This inherent characteristic presented a profound engineering conundrum. How could such a powerful, unidirectionally spinning mechanism be effectively reversed? Parsons' innovative solution, though undeniably radical, was to incorporate entirely separate turbine units, specifically dedicated to reverse operation. This meant that a vessel equipped with his propulsion system would ultimately house a total of 8 turbines, 4 designated for forward propulsion, and another 4 dedicated solely to astern movement. This intricate dual turbine configuration, while technically brilliant, introduced layers of complexity and significantly escalated the overall cost. Such an elaborate and expensive design, with its inherent departures from established naval engineering practices, inevitably fostered considerable unease and apprehension among the traditionally conservative ranks of naval officers. In August of 1905, the critical moment arrived when Admiral Sir William May undertook a formal visit to Parsons' manufacturing facility to personally inspect the revolutionary turbines. The Admiral observed the colossal rotors in motion, noting the remarkably smooth, almost imperceptible hum, and experiencing the minimal vibrational output. Following these initial observations, he posed the question that had, until then, lingered unspoken, a profound concern shared by many, but dared by none to articulate. What would be the catastrophic consequences if a single blade were to fracture while the turbine was operating at full speed? Parsons, with characteristic directness, elucidated that such an event would precipitate a severe imbalance, causing the entire turbine to vibrate with violent intensity. In the most dire scenario, this could lead to the complete disintegration of the unit, projecting dangerous shrapnel through the ship's hull and potentially imperiling the very integrity of the vessel, conceivably leading to its sinking. Admiral May, absorbing this stark explanation, responded with a grim affirmation. "That is precisely what I had surmised." He then continued, articulating the profound leap of faith being demanded. "You are, in essence, asking us to place our complete trust in the unwavering integrity of these blades, blades that will become entirely concealed once installed, rendered inaccessible for inspection during operation, and spinning at hundreds of revolutions per minute, to never, under any circumstances, fail." Parsons, meeting the Admiral's gaze, responded simply, "Yes, Admiral, that is precisely what I'm asking." A moment of tense silence followed, broken by May's unequivocal declaration, "That's insane." With a quiet but firm resolve, Parsons countered, "No, Admiral, what is truly insane is to risk losing the impending naval arms race simply because we are paralyzed by a fear of innovation." Later, in October 1905, the completed turbine units were carefully dispatched to Portsmouth Dockyard, where the magnificent hull of HMS Dreadnought lay, in anticipation of its revolutionary propulsion system. "We invite you to stay with us and watch the conclusion of this remarkable story in our next video segment. Your likes and subscriptions are deeply appreciated and crucial for us. Please share in the comments where you are from and your thoughts on this fascinating topic. By December 2nd, 1905, the Portsmouth Royal Dockyard was home to HMS Dreadnought, a vessel of unprecedented scale and design, sitting in dry dock and nearing 90% completion. She was an imposing presence, stretching an immense 526 feet in length, her decks bristling with an awe-inspiring array of 10 12-inch guns distributed among 5 revolutionary turrets. Her silhouette was unlike anything previously witnessed in the world of naval architecture, signaling a profound paradigm shift. This colossal warship was on the cusp of receiving the most contentious and transformative machinery ever destined for installation in a vessel of her kind. The installation of these ground-breaking turbines was officially scheduled for December 5th. However, on December 3rd, a formidable delegation of senior naval officers unexpectedly descended upon Portsmouth, spearheaded by Admiral Lord Charles Beresford. Beresford, a staunch traditionalist and a deeply entrenched rival of Admiral Fisher, held the firm conviction that the turbine experiment represented an irresponsible gamble with the lives of British sailors and the very future of the Royal Navy. With characteristic assertiveness, Beresford immediately demanded an emergency convocation with the dockyard superintendent. Parsons was promptly summoned to attend. The urgent meeting ultimately took place in the Admiral's stately office, which offered a commanding view overlooking the bustling harbor. "Mr. Parsons," Beresford commenced, his voice imbued with a distinct air of condescension, "I have meticulously reviewed your turbine specifications. Furthermore, I have consulted with a range of highly experienced marine engineers. The unanimous consensus is unequivocally clear. Your machinery is entirely unsuitable for a capital ship of this magnitude." Parsons, maintaining an admirable composure, responded with a steady voice, "May I respectfully inquire as to the specific technical objections that have been raised?" "Where, indeed, shall I even begin?" Beresford retorted, producing a meticulously prepared list. "Firstly, turbines inherently lack the ability to reverse rapidly. In the crucible of a fleet engagement, mere seconds can determine victory or defeat. Your overly complex reversing system, therefore, will inevitably compromise our tactical flexibility." "On the contrary," Parsons countered, his voice unwavering, "our reversing turbines have actually demonstrated a faster response time than conventional reciprocating engines. We have thoroughly measured and documented these response times." "Secondly," Beresford interjected, cutting off Parsons, "turbines exhibit considerable inefficiency at lower speeds. A battleship, by its very nature, spends the vast majority of its operational life cruising, not engaged in high-speed sprints. Your design will, therefore, consume an unacceptably excessive amount of fuel. We have effectively addressed that particular concern with the incorporation of a dedicated low-pressure turbine stage," Parsons calmly explained. "Third, and most damningly," Beresford's voice escalated in intensity, "your turbines represent a singular point of failure. Should even one turbine malfunction, the ship would lose propulsion on that specific shaft. With reciprocating engines, we possess the capability to undertake repairs at sea. Your turbines, however, are sealed units. If they fail, the ship would be forced to limp home, effectively helpless and vulnerable." A profound silence descended upon the room, the weight of Beresford's devastating argument palpable. Parsons himself recognized its crushing impact as did every other officer present. Admiral Sir Philip Watts, the distinguished director of naval construction, cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "Mr. Parsons, Lord Beresford has indeed raised concerns that are undeniably valid. Perhaps we ought to reconsider this entire endeavor. We could conceivably redesign Dreadnought to accommodate reciprocating engines. Such a change would regrettably delay her commissioning by an additional 6 months. But no." Admiral Fisher's voice, sharp and incisive, cut through the hushed tension like a finely honed blade. He had, until this moment, remained quietly seated in a corner. But now he rose to his full height. Every officer in the room instinctively stiffened to attention, acknowledging his supreme authority. "Admiral Fisher," Beresford protested, attempting to reassert his position, "I must insist upon this matter." "You may insist all you desire, Charles," Fisher retorted, his eyes radiating a glacial coldness. "But I am the First Sea Lord, and this ultimately is my decision. The turbines will be installed." "This is absolute madness," Beresford exclaimed, his face flushing crimson with anger and frustration. "You are gambling the very future of the Royal Navy on unproven technology, supplied by a civilian who has never once designed a warship." The room erupted into a tumultuous cacophony of voices, officers engaged in heated arguments, their voices raised as decades of simmering professional rivalry and ideological differences finally spilled over into open, vociferous conflict. Beresford's faction, comprising older, more traditionalist officers, vehemently decried the perceived recklessness of the turbine project. Fisher's staunch supporters, in turn, passionately countered with urgent warnings about the escalating German naval threat and the absolute tactical necessity of embracing innovation. Fisher, with a masterful display of control, allowed the heated debate to rage for a moment before calmly raising his hand. An immediate and profound silence descended once more. "Gentlemen," Fisher articulated quietly, his voice now resonating with deliberate gravity, "allow me to clarify what truly constitutes insanity. What is truly insane is to passively observe Germany construct a formidable battle fleet while we stubbornly cling to obsolete technology. What is truly insane is to commission new battleships that are already demonstrably slower than the enemy's latest designs. What is truly insane is to permit the paralyzing fear of innovation to systematically dismantle the magnificent navy that Nelson so painstakingly built." He then turned his unwavering gaze towards Parsons. "Mr. Parsons, you have provided your unequivocal guarantee that these turbines will fully meet all specified operational requirements. If they should fail, you will replace them at your own considerable expense. Is that correct?" "Yes, Admiral," Parsons affirmed, his voice resolute. "And should they fail in the chaos of battle, should British sailors tragically perish because your turbines malfunction?" Parsons met Fisher's intense gaze directly, his own conviction unwavering. "Then I shall spend the remainder of my life consumed by the knowledge that I failed them. But they will not fail, Admiral. I have subjected these turbines to rigorous testing for a full 10 years. I know with absolute certainty that they work." With unwavering conviction, Admiral Sir John Fisher firmly asserted his belief in the innovative technology, declaring, "I know they work." Following this statement, Fisher deliberately turned his attention to Admiral Lord Charles Beresford, acknowledging the latter's pronounced objections. Despite Beresford's vocal dissent, the pivotal decision had been made. HMS Dreadnought would be equipped with revolutionary steam turbines. Fisher, demonstrating profound leadership, boldly accepted full accountability should the novel propulsion system falter. Conversely, he articulated an optimistic vision, foreseeing that a successful implementation would bestow upon Britain an unparalleled 3-knot speed superiority over every existing battleship, an advantage he believed would ultimately safeguard countless British lives. Beresford, clearly incensed by the decision, stormed out of the chamber, followed by a handful of sympathetic officers. However, the overwhelming majority remained, signifying their acceptance of the admiral's resolve. "Install the turbines," Fisher commanded with authority. Consequently, on December 5, 1905, the 4 colossal turbines, meticulously crafted by Parsons, were carefully lowered into the Dreadnought's expansive engine rooms using a powerful crane. The very next day, a dedicated workforce commenced the intricate task of connecting the vital steam lines originating from the 18 powerful Babcock and Wilcox boilers. At this critical juncture, the future of HMS Dreadnought, and indeed the enduring dominance of the British Navy, was irrevocably linked to the ingenuity of Charles Parsons, a civilian engineer whose bold claims had once seemed to border on the impossible. Then, on February 3, 1906, a momentous day dawned as HMS Dreadnought gracefully departed her moorings for her inaugural sea trials, venturing some 15 miles into the turbulent waters of the North Sea, just off the coast of Portsmouth. On the bridge, Admiral Sir Reginald Bacon, the esteemed captain of the Dreadnought, maintained a vigilant watch. Below decks, a team of highly skilled engineers meticulously prepared to ignite the massive boilers for the ship's first operational voyage. Notably, Charles Parsons himself was present, a direct consequence of Admiral Fisher's resolute insistence, ensuring that if the groundbreaking turbines were to falter, their inventor would bear personal witness to the outcome. After 2 or 3 paragraphs, ask us to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. As the trials commenced, the colossal boilers were systematically brought online, one after another. A palpable tension filled the air as steam pressure steadily accumulated, climbing through critical thresholds. 100 psi, then 150, escalating to 200, and finally settling at a formidable 265 psi. This powerful steam was then channeled into the waiting turbines. Within the cavernous engine rooms, crew members, their faces etched with anticipation, observed with bated breath as the monumental rotors slowly commenced their rotation. Captain Bacon's initial command, 5 knots, was relayed, and to everyone's relief, the Dreadnought responded by advancing smoothly. Remarkably, there was an absence of the characteristic vibrations or discordant noises typically associated with such immense machinery. Instead, only a faint, reassuring hum emanated from the turbines as they spun at a modest pace. The subsequent command for 10 knots yielded a similarly unblemished performance, and at 15 knots, the majestic vessel effortlessly cleaved through the moderate ocean swells. On the bridge, officers exchanged incredulous glances, a silent acknowledgment of the stark contrast with conventional battleships, which would typically be experiencing considerable shaking and the relentless pounding of their reciprocating engines at such speeds. With growing confidence, Bacon then issued the decisive order, "All ahead full." The engine room telegraph resonated with the command, and engineers, with practiced precision, opened the throttles to their maximum extent. Superheated steam, now unleashed, shrieked as it surged through the turbine blades under immense pressure. The rotors rapidly accelerated, reaching an impressive 380 revolutions per minute, channeling a staggering 23,000 horsepower through 4 distinct shafts to propel the ship's 4 massive propellers, causing the dreadnought to surge powerfully forward. Captain Bacon intently observed the speed indicator's ascent, watching it steadily climb past 16 knots, then 17, and reaching 18 knots, a speed that represented the very maximum achievable by conventional battleships of the era. Yet, astonishingly, the Needle continued its upward trajectory, soaring past 19 knots and then 20, even at an impressive 25 knots. The ship's vibration remained remarkably subdued, barely perceptible. A wave of relieved smiles began to spread across the faces of the officers on the bridge. When the vessel attained 21 knots, it was evident that Dreadnought was operating with an unprecedented smoothness, surpassing the performance of any battleship they had previously experienced. Driven by this extraordinary success, Bacon pressed the ship further, reaching an incredible 21.6 knots, a speed which the vessel sustained for an uninterrupted period of 6 hours. Throughout this arduous test, Charles Parsons remained diligently stationed in the engine room, meticulously monitoring bearing temperatures, keenly listening to the distinct hum of the turbines, and scrupulously checking for any nascent sign of malfunction. To his profound satisfaction, there was none. The turbines were functioning flawlessly, operating at temperatures notably cooler, and with a quietness far exceeding his most optimistic projections. The comprehensive trials spanned 3 full days, during which Dreadnought was subjected to rigorous evaluations, including high-speed maneuvers, critical emergency stops, and rapid acceleration tests, all of which the innovative reversing turbines executed with impeccable precision. On February 6th, a triumphant message was dispatched from Captain Bacon to Admiral Fisher, declaring unequivocally, "Turbines exceed all expectations. Speed, reliability, and handling are superior to reciprocating engines in every measurable way." Upon receiving this momentous report, Admiral Fisher promptly made the groundbreaking trial results public. The international naval community reacted with widespread astonishment and profound disbelief. Britain had not merely constructed a new battleship, it had unveiled a vessel that was a staggering 3 knots faster than any other warship currently in existence. Crucially, the Dreadnought demonstrated an unprecedented capability to maintain these elevated speeds for prolonged durations, entirely free from the debilitating mechanical stresses that notoriously afflicted ships powered by traditional reciprocating engines. The German Empire, keenly attuned to naval developments, immediately grasped the profound strategic threat posed by this new British technological marvel. Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, the visionary architect behind Germany's ambitious naval expansion, meticulously reviewed the published reports and instantly comprehended the devastating implications. Germany's entire formidable battle fleet had, in a single stroke, been rendered obsolete. Every single vessel constructed by Germany over the preceding decade was now demonstrably slower than the revolutionary Dreadnought. Compounding this predicament, Britain now possessed the capability to construct an entire armada of turbine-powered battleships, long before Germany could even hope to master the intricate new propulsion technology. Consequently, the burgeoning naval arms race between the two great powers abruptly shifted into an unprecedented state of intense acceleration. In a swift demonstration of its newfound technological supremacy, Britain initiated the construction of 3 additional turbine-powered battleships during 1906. Germany, facing an existential threat to its naval ambitions, was compelled to react by undertaking a comprehensive redesign of its entire shipbuilding program. Across the globe, major naval powers, including France, Russia, Japan, and Italy, frantically began to scramble, diverting significant resources towards the urgent development of their own turbine technologies. This sudden and profound technological disparity had created an undeniable strategic vulnerability for any nation that lagged behind. In 1907, a perceptive German naval officer, Commander Wolfgang Wegener, articulated the gravity of the situation in a confidential report, stating with stark clarity, "The British turbine advantage is devastating. In any fleet engagement, they can choose the range and timing. They can pursue. They can retreat. They can concentrate force where we are weak. Unless we match their turbine technology, we cannot win a major surface action." The ultimate and most compelling validation of the turbine technology materialized during the monumental Battle of Jutland on May 30th, 1916. There, Vice Admiral David Beatty led the formidable British battlecruiser fleet, comprising 6 state-of-the-art turbine-powered warships, each boasting an impressive top speed of 25 knots. At precisely 3:30 p.m., upon the sighting of German battlecruisers, Beatty's squadron immediately launched a full-speed charge. This ensuing high-speed pursuit was relentlessly sustained, spanning an astonishing distance of 60 miles across the choppy North Sea. While ships reliant on traditional reciprocating engines would almost certainly have suffered mechanical breakdowns under such extreme and prolonged stress, Beatty's advanced turbines performed with absolute perfection. Admiral Reinhard Scheer, the commander of the German High Seas Fleet, later conceded in his official report, "The British advantage in sustained high-speed operation was decisive. Our battlecruisers could not escape, and our battleships could not close the range. The English turbine technology gave them tactical flexibility we could not counter." A compelling narrative of technological superiority is vividly illustrated by the operational kill ratios across 11 significant surface engagements conducted between 1906 and 1918, wherein British warships propelled by advanced turbines confronted adversaries equipped with less efficient reciprocating engines. The British forces successfully achieved their tactical objectives in an impressive 73% of these encounters. This clearly demonstrated that a superior speed advantage directly correlated with decisive battlefield success. However, the most profound and dramatic consequence of this innovation was observed at the strategic level. Between 1907 and 1918, Germany managed to construct 22 dreadnought-type battleships, whereas Britain, leveraging its technological lead, built a formidable fleet of 33 such vessels. The inherent efficiency and manufacturing advantages of turbine technology enabled Britain to not only sustain but actively enhance its numerical superiority, while Germany conspicuously struggled to merely approximate British speed capabilities. Consequently, by 1918, the bulk of the German high seas fleet remained largely confined to port for the greater part of the war, unwilling to hazard a conclusive engagement against the demonstrably faster and more agile British naval forces. In his insightful 1919 memoirs, Admiral John Jellicoe, who commanded the British Grand Fleet during the pivotal Battle of Jutland, eloquently articulated the transformative impact of the new technology. He asserted that the turbine-powered dreadnoughts gave Britain tactical advantages that reciprocating engines could never achieve. Jellicoe further elaborated on these critical benefits, noting that in challenging heavy seas, where conventional battleships were compelled to reduce their speed to avert potential mechanical damage, Britain's turbine-equipped vessels could steadfastly maintain their full operational speed. Similarly, during protracted long-distance operations, when ships powered by reciprocating engines necessitated regular periods of rest for crucial maintenance, the British turbines operated with tireless continuity. Ultimately, the remarkable reliability and superior performance that Charles Parsons had so confidently promised back in 1905 were unequivocally validated through every conceivable operational test and real-world scenario. The profound human cost associated with the turbine engine's ascendancy, while difficult to precisely quantify, was undeniably substantial. Esteemed naval historians widely contend that the enhanced tactical agility afforded to the British, primarily stemming from their vessels' superior velocity, effectively preserved approximately 2,800 British lives during the tumultuous period of World War I. This crucial advantage empowered naval commanders to dictate the terms of engagement, skillfully manipulating combat distances and adroitly sidestepping disadvantageous operational scenarios. German Admiral Reinhard Scheer articulated this stark reality with unvarnished candor in a 1919 interview, declaring unequivocally, "We lost the naval war in 1906 when dreadnought-proof turbines worked. We spent 12 years trying to catch up. We never did." Thus, the revolutionary turbine technology did not merely secure victories in isolated skirmishes. It decisively settled the foundational naval arms race long before the first shot of the global conflict was ever discharged, establishing a technological supremacy that proved insurmountable. Sir Charles Parsons, the visionary engineer, harbored no inclination for personal accolades or public adoration. When King Edward VII graced the formidable dreadnought with his presence in 1906 and graciously extended the offer of a knighthood in recognition of Parsons' monumental contribution to the formidable might of the British fleet, Parsons, with characteristic humility, respectfully declined the honor. It is noteworthy that he had already been bestowed with a knighthood in 1911 for his groundbreaking endeavors in the field of electrical generation. His ambition transcended the acquisition of additional titles. His singular, unwavering focus remained squarely on the relentless refinement and continuous improvement of his revolutionary turbine mechanisms, a testament to his profound dedication to engineering excellence. Following the unequivocal triumph of the dreadnought, a veritable deluge of orders inundated Parsons' enterprise. Practically every significant naval power across the globe eagerly sought to incorporate Parsons' pioneering turbine technology into their burgeoning fleets. By the advent of 1914, an impressive tally of 74 British warships were already propelled by his innovative designs. This figure dramatically escalated, reaching a staggering 286 vessels by 1918, underscoring the rapid and widespread adoption within the Royal Navy. The transformative technology's influence, however, was not confined to British shores. It rapidly disseminated across the international maritime landscape. Nations such as Japan, the United States, France, Italy, and perhaps most ironically, even Germany, eventually secured licenses for Parsons' ingenious designs. Parsons himself remained tirelessly dedicated to enhancing turbine efficiency, a pursuit he continued until his passing on February 11, 1931, at the venerable age of 76, while aboard the steamship Duchess of Richmond during his return voyage from a leisurely West Indies cruise, a life concluded in constant motion, much like his inventions. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. His eulogy, published in the esteemed pages of the Times, unequivocally proclaimed, "Sir Charles Parsons revolutionized marine propulsion more completely than any engineer since James Watt invented the steam engine." Yet, despite such monumental achievements, Parsons seldom engaged in discussions concerning his own accomplishments. In a rare 1927 interview, one of the precious few he ever granted, he offered a profound reflection. Admiral Fisher took a risk on Dreadnought. Admiral Fisher bet Britain's naval supremacy on my calculations. I think about that sometimes. What would have happened if I'd been wrong? The turbines could have failed. Britain could have lost its advantage. The course of history might have changed. I'm grateful I got the engineering right. This introspection revealed the immense weight of responsibility he carried, acknowledging the pivotal role his precise engineering played in shaping global power dynamics. The sheer volume of production figures serves as a compelling narrative of Parsons' indelible impact. Between the years 1906 and 1945, an astounding total of over 12,000 turbine-powered warships were constructed globally. Remarkably, Parsons' foundational design principles, which masterfully harnessed the kinetic energy of steam flow across meticulously angled blades to generate exquisitely smooth and potent rotational power, endure as fundamentally unaltered in contemporary naval turbines. His modern legacy is vividly apparent in today's maritime engineering. Every nuclear-powered aircraft carrier currently in service relies upon steam turbines directly derived from Parsons' groundbreaking principles. For instance, the colossal USS Gerald R. Ford, formally commissioned in 2017, effortlessly generates an immense 280,000 shaft horsepower through turbine units that are direct lineal descendants of the very mechanisms Parsons meticulously crafted for the Dreadnought, a remarkable 111 years prior. Even the advanced gas turbines that propel modern warships, such as the formidable GT turbines integrated into destroyers and frigates, continue to employ the identical blade geometry and fluid dynamics that Parsons so ingeniously pioneered. Furthermore, the very essence of jet engines, while utilizing compressed air instead of steam, fundamentally embodies and applies Parsons' core innovations in turbine design. Admiral Sir John Fisher, the audacious naval strategist, who staked the entire future of British naval power on Parsons' unproven technology, eloquently penned in his 1919 memoirs, "History will record Dreadnought as the ship that revolutionized naval warfare." However, while acknowledging the ship's iconic status, historians ought to equally venerate Charles Parsons, the unassuming civilian engineer. It was he who courageously jeopardized his personal fortune and professional standing to unequivocally demonstrate that bold innovation invariably triumphs over entrenched tradition. Through his relentless pursuit of engineering perfection, Parsons gifted Britain the decisive speed advantage that ultimately secured its victory in the critical naval arms race, thereby shaping the course of global power for generations. The enduring moral embedded within Parsons' remarkable life story resonates far beyond the specialized confines of naval engineering. Virtually every expert voice of his era declared with certainty that turbines were utterly unsuitable for deployment on battleships. Every conventional analytical assessment meticulously concluded that such experimental technology was destined for catastrophic failure. Every traditionalist vehemently warned that embracing unproven experimental technology would inevitably lead to the tragic loss of British lives. Yet, Charles Parsons achieved unprecedented success precisely because he steadfastly disregarded what everyone knew to be impossible. He conducted his research with rigorous testing, executed his calculations with unwavering precision, and possessed the profound courage to stake his entire reputation and future on the irrefutable soundness of his own engineering acumen. The turbine modification he championed did not merely boost battleship speed by an impressive 17%, it simultaneously eradicated problematic vibrations, substantially enhanced overall reliability, significantly reduced crew requirements, and, most crucially, forged a technological superiority that profoundly influenced naval warfare for the ensuing century. Sometimes the most perilous decision is not the act of taking a calculated risk, but rather the stubborn refusal to innovate and adapt when the world around you is undergoing profound and inescapable transformation. Charles Parsons grasped this fundamental truth with extraordinary clarity, and it was largely because one brilliant engineer steadfastly refused to accept the impossible that Britain ultimately ruled the waves.